Yo, what's up? It's your boy Ernie Reyes Jr. and you're watching Hyper.combo.comics.
What is up, YouTube? It's your boy hyper.combo.comics, and I'm here to talk about my top 20 comic book pickups of 2024. Now, 2024, if I'm being honest, was a great year in terms of me being able to pick up books to level up my collection, and quite frankly, there was several books on this list that I would never have expected to even be added to the collection this past calendar year, which is why making this list was that much more special. And trust me, it was very hard to actually narrow it down to 20 books for this list, but I did the best I could, and I'm sure, and trust me, there was a lot of other noteworthy books that I wish I could have added, but I tried to keep it strictly to 20. Now, there's two things to keep in mind about this list. First is that it's going to be actually broken down into two videos. So the video that you're seeing right now is going to be the books that I deemed from rank number 20 to 11. And then the second video is the books that I ranked from 10 to 1. And yes, those are actually going to be ranked in that order. So basically the book that lands on the number 1 spot is the book that I deemed as my MVP acquisition of 2024. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is you're probably going to be seeing some books that are going to be lower on my list in ranking wise, but in a monetary sense, it probably deserves to be at a higher position. And the reason you're going to be seeing that is because when I put this list together, I didn't just look at it only from a monetary point of view, but also in terms of how that book fits into my personal collecting goals and my overall comic collection in general. So there's going to be a lot of disagreements, I'm sure, with the way certain books are placed in terms of its ranking, but you know what? That's the beauty of making your own personal list. I'm sure if I gave 10 different people the same 20 books and asked them to rank it in order, I'm sure I'm going to get 10 different results. So yeah, so that's that. And with those little housekeeping points out of the way, hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Definitely leave a like and a comment. Would definitely love to get your feedback. And with that in mind, let's kick it off with book number 20. Alright, so kicking off the list with number 20 is the Joshua Middleton Batgirl variant from 2018. This book, actually, remember, came out a few months after I got back into the collecting hobby. And I actually remember this heating up right out of the gate. But like with most variants, I figured this would cool down after several months, and actually quite the opposite happened. This was a book that ended up actually sustaining and even increasing its value over time, and if I'm not mistaken, it's currently almost a triple-digit book raw. And this is just one of those lightning in a bottle situations. Now, I was able to actually get this at a good deal during a warehouse Boxing Day sale. And honestly, this is one of those covers that you'll appreciate it a lot more when you see it in person, as it's not only a good comic cover, I just find it's a great art piece in general that's just great to display on your shelf or on your wall. So definitely glad to pick this up finally in the PC. Alright, so next up on the list at number 19 is Ultimate Fallout 4, and this is the first appearance of the Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, this book I was able to get cheap in a lot deal over the summertime, and I paid well under the current FMV on this, and this book has really come down in value from where it was 2-3 years ago, and honestly that's mainly due to the fact that this book was a heavily printed issue, and the prices that we were seeing during the pandemic was not going to be able to sustain itself after a while, especially when we were seeing more and more of those high-grade 9.8s and 9.6s coming into the census. Even still, this book is still a very key first appearance, and a 9.8 still goes for 4 digits, I believe, still. So this definitely is a book worth grabbing if you can find it on the low. Now, the reason why I put it this low on my top 20 ranking list is, honestly, this is, I believe, my 4th or 5th copy of this book. But this is one of those books that I will pick up if I can find a good deal on it, because I do believe in the future of Miles Morales. Alright, so for those that have known me in this hobby for a while, know that two of the things that I enjoy collecting are video game comics and comics that are scarce or hard to find. And that brings me to number 18 on the list, which is Dragon Lairs number 1, the Graham Crackers variant that was limited to 1,000 copies. Now, I remember actually this game on the PC back in the 90s, so again, this hits that nostalgic feel. And in terms of the scarcity of this book, I think I only saw 1 or 2 listings of this currently online, and the last sold listing I saw for this book was about a month ago, and it was a best offer for 150 USD. So this is definitely not a cheap book to find, but fortunately I was able to get a really solid deal on this at the Montreal Comic Con for not just this book but the rest of the issues in this set. Now, you gotta be careful because Dragon Lairs actually has 2 volumes. So the first volume is obviously more valuable because that's considered, you know, the first comic appearance of Dragon's Lair, and this is from the first volume. So yeah, happy to have this now in the collection. Alright, so next up on the list at number 17 is the Punisher 218, the Greg Smallwood variant, which is also a 1 in 25 ratio cover. Now, I do own several copies of the 218 cover A, as well as the John Bernthal Netflix photo variant, as this is a key issue being it is the first appearance of the Punisher War Armor. Now, this cover being a 1 in 25 ratio, it is more of a limited supply compared to the other covers I mentioned, and the prices definitely reflect this online, as a copy did sell for $275 USD back in December. That was a CGC 9.8. Now, for my graded 9.8, I didn't even pay nearly that much. I actually may have paid probably less than that. So it was a definite deal that I was not going to pass up. And again, another book that I'm happy to add in my 218 collection. Alright, so next up on this list is Batman 679, which is a Tony Daniel 1 in 25 ratio variant. Now, the funny thing about this book is when you actually look up the regular cover A, the prices on that are still hovering around cover price. But this 1 in 25 ratio is well over 100 USD raw asking. Now, I can understand why, because this is not a book I tend to see often at my LCS or even at conventions for that matter. But I always wanted this cover because I'm a Batman fan, and I dug this badass cover that shows Batman in an Elseworld situation. But I didn't want to pull the trigger on the current asking prices online. Now, fortunately, I was able to acquire this book in a comic collection I picked up back in February of 2024. So I'm just happy now to have this in the collection, and I no longer have to hunt for it. Alright, so number 15 on the list is the 9th printing of The Killing Joke by Alan Moore. Now, I did mention earlier on in this video that I do enjoy finding hard to find and scarce issues and variants, and this definitely fits the bill as it is considered the scarcest late printing of The Killing Joke. I believe copies of this generally, the asking price is upwards of $150 to $200 Canadian dollars. I was able to actually find this for $30 at my LCS, and it's a very clean copy. The only real blemish that I noticed was there is a date stamp near the Joker's glove, but honestly, that's a blemish I'm willing to overlook for the price I paid. The irony though of this is that I still don't own a first printing of this issue. I think mainly because I always see that first printing floating around at conventions and at my LCS, and I'm just looking for a good deal on that book. So I just feel I have time to pick that up at a good price. But this book is not one that I see often, so for $30 I was definitely going to snatch this up. So there's no way I was not going to add at least one Turtle book on my top 20 list, and that brings us to number 14, which is the thank you variant of The Last Ronin issue number 1. Now, The Last Ronin story itself took the comic community by storm, as it was met with almost universal praise for its storytelling and for basically putting the Turtles in this dystopian universe that we've never usually seen the Turtles in before. I've been collecting this series since day one, and I believe I actually have all the late printings of the issues. but I was always missing this thank you variant because it was a 1 per store variant. So due to that, shops were asking actually over $100 for this issue, and I was always biding my time waiting for a deal to surface. And someone in the community actually during the summertime was offering this for, I believe, $30, and the reason it was so low is because there was a small crease in the middle of the spine. But honestly, considering this was going to stay in the PC and I wasn't planning on selling it or, you know, flipping it, I was definitely gonna jump on it at that price, as I've never, I like, even currently the asking price online for this book is well over $100. Alright, so number 13 is actually one of my first pickups of 2024 back in January, and that is the Amazing Spider-Man 569 second print variant by John Romita Jr. And this cover actually is the last page on the interior of issue 569. Now, there's different versions of this. There's different variants, of this issue. We have the regular cover, and we do have an Adi Granov Venom variant, and I'm not sure if they're store exclusives, but in terms of open orders, I know those two exist, as well as the second print. Now, the second print by far is the most sought after and valuable issue in this bunch, and that's mainly because this second print not only features the first appearance of the anti-Venom, but it's also his first cover appearance, as you can see right there on the front. This 9.6 last sold back in October of 2024 for about $4.30 Canadian with shipping, I'm sure. I paid less than half of that at my LCS, and actually, because it was my birthday month, I actually got an additional 10% off the price, so even more savings on this book. So a definite steal to kick off 2024. Alright, for number 12 we have X-Force 25, the 1 in 50 Stephen Platt variant from the Rick Remender run. Now, this is definitely a scarce book to find online, as I can't imagine a lot of shops are ordering 50 copies of this book this late into the run, and the CGC numbers definitely show it, as there's currently less than 40 graded copies on the census. I was actually able to get this 9.6, I believe, around the same price as what raw copies are going for currently, and the timing of this could not have been any better, because shortly after I made the order and it got shipped to my address, that's when the Canada Post strike happened, and basically the whole mailing system in our country went to complete hell. But at least this book arrived safe and sound, and honestly, it's just a badass cover from Stephen Platt, and definitely one that looks great on display. Alright, so number 11 and the last book in this first video part is the Gotham City Sirens 1 in 25 J.G. Jones variant. Now, you would think that being a 1 in 25 of an issue number 1, that this variant would be plentiful in copies online, but that's actually not the case. This is actually a tough book to actually get a hold of, and to my recollection, I've only seen this once prior to grabbing this in the wild, and the shop at the time was asking for about 200 Canadian, if I recall. I didn't pay nearly that, and I actually got this book in the same collection that had the Batman 679 variant that I mentioned earlier on in this video. They were both in the same collection, and actually this was the book that was actually one of my driving forces to even pick up the collection in the first place, as it's a stunning cover by J.G. Jones, and like I said, it's a tough book to find in the wild, so the fact that I was able to get this in a lot pickup was a definite win. So happy to have this now finally in the PC. So that about does it for part 1 of my top 20 comic book pickups of 2024. Stay tuned for part 2, which should be coming out shortly. But until then, thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.